everybody. Welcome to episode 206 of Red Wings Rant, where tirades and impassioned pleas for your Detroit Red Wings finally have a home. Rant's going to happen today. Because, Mike, I think folks blowing last night, honestly, like some people are going to hear me say this and they're going to go, man, F these two, so stupid. But clearly, things are being blown way out of proportion. So if you're one of those who let that game get to them, let me say, you know what? I'm one of them. I was angry, Mike, this morning. What did I text you and say I wanted to title today's episode?
We radically changed the format, slides, and content of the show 3 times this morning in the span of 5 minutes, where you completely wiped out your slides, and then you completely put it back in, then you're going to pull them back out again. Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap. Matt was doing a Red Wing triple vasectomy this morning, but he's come back to his senses. He's no longer the Zach Braff Chicken Little, and I think we can proceed as normal. Matt, this is a 500 hockey team who played 2 very good teams at hockey. So I think we saw the results of 2 rosters. Yeah. And boy, was it fun for 5 periods. I'm stealing that line from Blashill. He didn't say fun, but he's like, we looked like a good team for 5 periods. And then the second half, the third period happened, and oh my God, we crapped the bed a little bit. But to be expected. So we had a whole thing where we're going to go down a rabbit hole, and my God, how are we going to do these Red Wing defensive cores? My God, we got to look at the prospect list. We got to pull up free agents. Who are we getting at the deadline, if anybody? It's 2 good teams. It's, we did pretty well against those goddamn Penguins. And then, the Toronto buzzsaw, we'll call them the regular season buzzsaw, came in that third period. And, they got a couple empty netters. Those don't even count. Yeah. So we barely lost by kind of a goal against Toronto. So that's not a big deal for me.
Well, we want to touch on some of the analytics in this. So we don't want to get too deep. But, you know what? I forgot I did want to do this too. So everybody forgive me while I pull this up. If you are listening to the podcast right now, you are being saved from Matt actually going through as I speak and pulling up the shop page. But I just want to remind everybody, it's bodpodcast.com, brothersofdiscussion.com. You guys can check out all of our sweet merch, including our brand new shirt that I'm going to scroll down to on the bottom here. The Save Us Verana, of course, the silhouette of our man celebrating his 4-goal game, and throwing the hashtag on there. Maybe that'll catch on. I'm a pretty big fan of this. Nice, cheap, and easy. $18.99. You get to wear a cool Save Us Verana t-shirt. Akin to Save Us Y2J back in the WWE days. So if you guys want to support the show, of course, there's a ton of ways that you can wear your Red Wings Rant gear. But this one I thought would be a little bit more fun for anybody that already has their Red Wings Rant gear and they're just looking for a way to support the Wingdings by also supporting us. So there you go. bodpodcast.com, brothersofdiscussion.com, and click on the shop button.
I do like that if your tweet gets a little lengthy, and you can't quite worm in that Save Us Verano, you could just do hashtag SUV, and we'll know exactly what you're talking about. Verana drives the Motor City, some crap like that. I don't know.
Well, my man Craig is getting us back on track here. Craig, how you doing? Hronek has regressed. That's actually going to be a show topic. We're going to get to that, and we're going to talk about some of the defensemen here. So we're coming up to that, and we're going to ask the question, like, how much can you really expect out of this group? But first things first, Mike. This is I titled the episode. What was it? Our defensive struggles overshadowed some positives. Mike, Jay Fresh highlighted for everyone how great the Penguins really are. And this was had nothing to do with the Red Wings game. People were just asking for his team cards, so he threw it out there. The Penguins, league rank 7, division rank 2nd, and you could see top 10 in almost every statistical category for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And what I guess where I'm coming from in highlighting this is that we actually had a pretty good weekend of hockey. And we're still right smack dab in the middle of a rebuild. We almost were able to beat the Leafs, shut them down pretty handily, nearly took a 5-2 lead against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and took down the Pittsburgh Penguins, who one might be able to argue, with this table here, would have been a more impressive victory with how strong the Penguins have been playing recently. That being said, there were still some negatives, but that's where we want this episode to kind of come in and make sure nobody's forgetting. Mike, you shout out, you stop me, because a lot of this is going to be going through these analytics and these numbers here brought to us by Natural Stat Trick, highlighting what a clear victory it was for the Wingdings over the Penguins. What I highlighted here in the bottom right corner, you can see Red Wings did such a great job. Now, as the game went on, we actually got stronger in regards to high danger chances on the Penguins. So we went from 50%, so we split it right down the middle, to 57% to 60%. Same can't be said for the expected goals for. That number actually came down, but we still owned it for the first, second, and third period against the Penguins, going for almost 75% of the chances were in favor of the Red Wings, then 58%, then 53%. Now, reason I bring this up, goal scoring was 2-2, through regulation against the Penguins. But when you're talking about the way that this game was played, it was owned by the Red Wings for 3 periods. When we're talking about 5-on-5. Now, special teams, we could get into the conversation about the refs and, maybe too many penalties were called. Not enough penalties being called against the Penguins. But in regards to when this game was down the middle, it was 5-on-5. Red Wings own this game. From our favorite way of analyzing any of these games and taking a look at the expected goals for. So this is something where I'm kind of coming off of a lot of people being angry at the, I guess, the implosion in the third period. And what I saw was these third period implosions have to stop. Where from a generic standpoint, absolutely. But we're also coming off the heels of an amazing game the night before. And it's a back-to-back where statistically every team that plays a back-to-back plays a very strong first period. And as the game goes on, chances and attempts decline.
Right.
Across the NHL. So the Red Wings sort of just stuck to what happens in the NHL. And it just so happened to be against, like you put it, the Toronto Buzzsaw. So, again, throwing this out there, just want everybody to take a deep breath,
Yeah.
Let's calm down, but this is where we start the conversation. Mike,
if we're if this is 1991 and you're playing the role of Jim Garrison, played by Kevin Costner in the movie JFK, essentially the schedule makers shot the Red Wings, right for that third period back
right in the DICK.
And to the left, back and to the left, back and to the left.
I missed your JFK. Like I heard it, and my brain didn't register it till the back. Go ahead.
And to the left. That's what happened. I'm not too upset about it. The one thing I was going to mention, and I always like to touch upon this, is how bad our special teams are. So anytime you're a little upset about the referees not calling penalties, like almost like God, what is the word I want to use? Like a makeup call. Like for the other team, when they don't make a call, that's actually for the Red Wings' benefit because we're so much better at 5-on-5 than we are on the power play. True. So they actually let it go. They swallow the whistle on purpose to try and help this terrible team on the power play, man. So I appreciated the referee's effort to try and even out that game.
I did highlight at the end of that Penguins win. I was like, this is so out of the ordinary because not only did we get a Zadina goal, but it was also the second power play unit scored. So it's like this is an oddity upon all oddities. Craig thrown out there. Overall, a lot of positives. Craig, I 1,000% agree. JM, he's checking in from work. JM, God bless you. I hope you're not getting in trouble. At least we got to see our boys play the best hockey they've played all year for 2 periods. And Mo, come on, the kid is so much fun to watch. JM, that's exactly where we're coming from. I'm so happy you tuned in. And Craig throwing out there, Seider, Ragdoll, and Crosby. Beautiful moment. Ken Kell
I hope
threw
that.
out there. Go ahead.
I was going to say that I hope that we can save that particular highlight when we're trying to get this Calder awarded to one of the 3 Rookie of the Year candidates on the Red Wings team. It's basically 3-on-1 against Zegras, and he's still running away with it with 2 magical goals.
Yeah.
Because all they're going to remember is the razzle dazzle, but not the ragdolling from our beloved Mo.
I wasn't going to bring that up to kind of highlight, we're going up against the Ducks tomorrow, but I was like, let's not even bring up.
I think we need to make a dedicated effort to just Seider, your job today. I don't care if we lose 9-0. Okay, just make sure none of those goals are Zegras. That's your goal today. No highlight reels. I don't want to see them on ESPN. I don't want to see them on Magicians Unveiled on Fox. I don't want to see any of that shit. So you get over there and you make sure nothing crazy happens. Okay, it's your one job today. You're doing this for yourself. You're doing it for Ned, and most importantly, you're doing this for Lucas. He's your best friend.
I wanted to bring this part up, so we'll bring up Mo here. Hopefully, this isn't the thing that gets us taken down.
Yeah, we need this highlight shared as much as possible.
So yeah, this is Mo just not backing down from Sidney Crosby here. I would highlight too, Mike. Let me back this up here a little bit. Watch Lucas Raymond on the right side here. Staal and I believe Rust are going at it. Just watch Raymond as Rust is trying to grab him. Yeah, a little karate chop to bring his hand down. Did you see that?
One more time. Yeah.
So there again, okay. Got to watch on the right hand side. Rust has got Raymond. It's beautiful. Raymond just not taking it either. But of course, the highlight here is Seider. Now, a fun element about this, Mike, we talked about it all the time leading up to this season. We spent a whole year talking about an interview we did with Ken Kell where he was really he was holding back, right? He was like, it is exciting that these kids are coming, but just remember it'll be their first season. Remember when they start off well, it's been their first week, it's been their first month, and even now it's the first half a season. But Ken Kell put out a tweet that got thousands of likes because he said, this is done. He said, I don't care what sort of silly goals that Trevor's putting in to end the year. The Calder winner, the best rookie on the ice, is Mo Seider. Now, to your point, Mike, you were talking about needing some highlights. I said, this is great. This right here, beating up Crosby. Because this proves that Seider is not only great at hockey, but he's a marketing wizard too. Because the social media team, Mike, the pregame highlights, Mike, for Seider's banner raising, if I may, for his jersey retirement banner being raised, they have some highlights now to put together, and that's it's not just going to be amazing deeks to get us into the zone that we'll talk about in a second here, but it's going to include a face wash of a man who will go down as one of the greatest of all time to play the sport. I won't shy away from saying that. We know Crosby's really good at hockey, but Seider in his rookie season did not back down. Just a beautiful moment for Red Wings fans to make sure they don't forget. Right, Craig. I'm glad you brought it up because we were trying to highlight the positives here this weekend that I thought. 2 nights in a row, very good Red Wings hockey, very good middle of the rebuild Red Wings hockey, and we're all so angry that not only did we lose the game against one of the best teams in the league, but gosh darn it, Mike, we let in 2 empty net goals too. Ugh. I'm kind of harping on that because people are using the giving up 5 goals in the third period, kind of like clickbaity. Like I'm gonna get an easy like on Twitter right now by bringing up 5 goals against, but 2 empty net goals. I mean,
it was 3 goals. We'll say 2.5. One of them I wasn't super impressed by. So I mean, they kind of got 2.5. They squeaked by and they beat us 4.5-4. So that's how I watched it.
Eric's here. What's going on, Eric?
Eric, can you stomach the Red Wings losing 4.5-4?
Yeah, I mean that's much.
We lost 4.5-4. I think we can stomach that.
Sam, I'm glad you're here too. He's here with us live. Now we did have some slides that we wanted to keep going over as well. So we have the highlights from that Penguins game that we can bring up if we want. But really, that's I don't know. Do we want to see Filip Zadina finally put one in? We talked about
we're not going to get a lot of opportunities to do this. So I think that if you somehow have the capacity to have a Zadina goal highlight, I think at all costs we need to dedicate some portion of the show to some visual that this guy can put pucks in net. It's real.
Well,
I think you have it. I think you have it ready to go right now.
I just want to We'll transition this into what could have been a huge lead for the Wings last night. And it's another one of those things where we're so angry about losing, but we were one bounce from that game being out of hand in our favor. But yeah, I mean, I didn't get a lot of likes for this, Mike, but I tweeted out trade value through the roof. Oh no, we've got sound.
Oh God, we're going to get canceled.
Yep. All right. So there's Zadina putting it in. Oh, we got it. Let's back that up. We don't need the faraway view. Let's get right in here. So Leddy's actually taking this from the point. So if we could just get right to the end there. This is the important part. I mean, not by any means what Zadina's known for, what he was drafted for. Puck gets stuck in his skates, and boom, just knocks it in. Nothing against pucks going in that way. Just kind of pointing out the obvious there, but good for Zadina. The only problem was, I kind of, I think we were hoping like this kind of goal would happen for Zadina, where we just, the way you looked at it was he had really rough looking opportunities and he'd bounce them off the post, so something that, maybe shouldn't have gone in. And also, Mike, is everybody ready for the conversation that Zadina's stick is actually away from the puck and Rasmussen might have knocked that in?
I'm not ready.
Anyway,
for that.
let's not do that.
I don't want to hear about I don't want to hear about two shooters. Not today. There's one shooter. All right.
So good news for Zadina, but what you wanted to have happen there, right? Was that the next night things were going to go better, or like just moving forward things would go better? But that's where
I don't want to hear about the grassy knoll, Matt.
I guess let's wrap up the conversation for the Penguins, because this is another juicy one to show for everybody. Is just how far in our favor the chances ended up being. So that's that line that goes south towards the Red Wings there. I forgot
it's like
how
the old Red Wings Rant logo. I like this a lot.
Oh, that's just our regular overlay. For everybody who's not watching on YouTube, you guys are missing out on our Red Wings Rant logo there. But
I meant the line. Looks like the Detroit City skyline.
Oh, I gotcha. Yep, right over Matt's head.
Yeah, I noticed. I had to explain my joke, but go ahead, man.
So that was just our last little ditty for the Penguins game. Again, this was a great game for the Wings. I don't want it to be missed. But as we moved into the next night, and I got to blow this up so I can actually read this. Still, overall, pretty good night for the Red Wings. The third period sucked, and that does happen sometimes. But what you can see here is we actually own the high danger chances again, and chances overall ended up being in our favor. But like as everyone pointed out, and I think is a good point, unlike that Penguins game. The chances went far into the Maple Leafs' favor into the third period. So they got 65% of the chances. And that's bad. And what we were highlighting earlier, we were talking about was the notion online of people saying these third period implosions need to stop. And I guess it's just one of those things where we were one night removed from complete domination for third periods, and we immediately split and turned the narrative back into we always implode in the third period. And we're one night removed from keeping a 2-2 game against the Pittsburgh Penguins and taking it into overtime. So, Mike, is the right way to look at this. I mean, you could pull it as, hockey's going to be hockey, but Mike, this is what we've been saying all season, and all the credit goes to you because you started the conversation. But a 500 team, Mike, 500 teams going to 500, right? I mean, you win some, you lose some. Some go fantastically in your favor. You get to see a shootout goal, and Mike, Calvin Pickard, what the hell? Shutting down Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Sometimes that's going to happen. And then other times this is going to happen, right?
Sometimes you flip a coin and you're like, oh, this game sucks. And then you flip it again. Hey, back in the money. So we just got to get used to that as a 500 team.
So there are a lot of good things that happen in this game, but I guess this is like a horrible transition into this, because what I wanted to do was kind of just go from Zadina's highlight from the last game and then kind of come to this where it just, God, is it ever going to end for Zadina? So Ernie puts out this amazing pass, and I don't know if everybody saw this, but it's funny. Like, I didn't realize how close this was until I saw, you can see what I screen grabbed here was actually Bally's transition into commercial. Ernie's got this puck behind the back, throws it out in front of the net, and it's 4-2 at this point. And there's our boy Zadina. I dare say the bad luck still rolling in. I mean, this is nothing against Zadina. This is bad luck again. This is something where if he's like 2 feet, maybe even 1 foot north, it's 5-2. And this game is just out of hand. Maybe Toronto, is waving the white flag. And it's just, we can just watch the puck kind of slowly roll away from. Oh, yeah, there it is. Like, look how close Zadina got to that puck. Can you see that? Is the overlay completely in the way here?
It's not completely in the way because I can kind of see a little ho-ho cupcake in the lower left corner.
Yeah.
But this is a picture of not just
really
one
cute,
game, not just one shift of one game. Matt, this is a picture of Zadina's life this year.
I mean, nothing. Yeah, there is no picture you could bring up that is more indicative of what Zadina's season has been like. And to think too, like, all of this wrapped together, like Ernie's throwing it behind the back. So it's not anything where it's like, Ernie's got it. He's making the play to make sure that, the secondary defense, so the next defenseman in line from where Ernie's throwing that puck, isn't expecting the pass. It's just, I mean, it's literally a matter of inches. I threw 2 feet out there. Wrong. Dead wrong. Mike, we're talking like 3 inches between the end of Zadina's stick and that puck. If 3 inches. And that game's 5-2 and out of hand. And
you know what? You know what I always say, Matt? 3 inches is huge.
You dirty dog. All right. Again,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Just continuing to lay down the line here. Then this was a good weekend. We were just maybe inches away from it being even better. My dear Brania, I went to the Wings game here in Nashville. Seeing Raymond and Mo live made me realize just how great they already are. We are so close to contending. Man. My dear Brenya, this is going to be a great transition into what we want to talk about next. So thank you so much. Tristan, last night's game was pretty exciting. Sucks they lost. Eric throws out there, my question is why the inconsistent play from period to period? Eric, I would come back to that Pittsburgh game where we're on legitimate, you've got a day of rest. You've got an opportunity to practice. And the point we tried to make at the beginning of the show was maybe this was just getting screwed really hard by the scheduling, also mixed with your level of talent and probably an upgrade needed coaching wise. All that wrapped together is where this turns into Red Wings lose, and we're showing highlights where we're inches away from making it 5-2. Craig put it perfectly here. Just growing pains is a great way to throw that, because we are such a young team. And to come back to Brania's point, Raymond and Mo are rookies. you're not coming in with two rookies and going, all right, now we're a playoff team. It's just there were so many holes to fill. Two guys weren't going to fill those holes. Mike, we made the point that Lucas would have had to come in. What did we say? Statistically speaking, would have had to have played at the level of 5 Connor McDavids for us to guarantee a playoff spot. And we said that jokingly, but when you look at the advanced analytics and you can put together that WAR statistic that we look at all the time from like Jay Fresh, even the level of Connor McDavid that he brings, like just adding him to this team wouldn't have been enough. So you needed 5 Connor McDavids to add to this team based on their performance from the last 3 seasons to see us in the playoffs. So clearly there were a lot of holes that needed to be filled. Hey, you could, like right now, you could say, you know what? Tyler Bertuzzi ended up being one of those Connor McDavids. That's fine. Go ahead and say that. Dylan Larkin, career year. So, we can cross a couple of those Connor McDavids off the list. But still, Lucas isn't having a Connor McDavid season. So he's having an amazing season. But we still have so many different holes to fill. And I think that's kind of where we transition next. Actually, this would have been smart if I actually had this up. Dylan Larkin, the difference, I guess, half a season can make. Going from the 44 games from last year and adding in the games from this season. His wins above replacement percentage. Again, this means that Dylan Larkin is in the top 8% in the league for wins above replacement just by adding in this season compared to last year, of course, dealing with injuries. Mike, what's the difference for Dylan this year?
Besides, I know what you're getting at. I know what you're doing. You want me to think about that awful Darren McCarty interview again? He's healthy.
I'm waiting for the day that he does come back to me and like send us a message. And so I hear you guys are talking shit. Like that's what I'm waiting for.
Well, there will be a slight pause as he licks closed another marijuana joint.
Before he delivers that message.
Yeah.
So what I was saying was, trying to put cross some Connor McDavids off the list here, and I'm just jokingly throwing out Connor McDavid. But Mike, this was the fun one I found today as we're trying to fill these holes. Look at Tyler Bertuzzi. This is his 3 seasons. This is what this 89% WAR is based off of. Look at his WAR percentile rank for 2020 to 2022. Do you see on the top right that graph? That dot, if you looked at just this season, look at Jay Fresh's tables, Tyler Bertuzzi's 100% right now.
He is better than 99% of the league.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. That's how good of a season he's having. Now, I threw this in there, and this probably would have made more sense when I was
he's only got 1 dot. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got 1 season.
Yeah.
Now, Muffin Man Brand throwing out there, what jersey are you wearing?
Oh, look at the timing on that one. Woo!
I'm a big fan of Lucas Raymond. I needed to be wearing this jersey to throw this out there. His WAR is 66%. He's having an amazing rookie season. It's not Connor McDavid level. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing, absolutely zero things wrong with that.
More importantly, is it Zegras level?
Ooh, it's not.
Oh, no!
Secret's a little bit higher, but again, the point we're trying to make here is that yes, of course, these rough games are still going to happen because we're just not at that point yet. So it sucks to keep making those points, but I think we're getting so far away from like the beginning of the season. Just felt like, oh my god, we are not a playoff team, but how much fun is it to sniff the playoffs? For what? We had a couple of months where we were really close. And
where we had a bunch more games played than other teams.
Right. And now Boston's getting so far away from us and it's done. Right.
Yeah.
But
that's okay that dream's over. Yeah. You can have other dreams.
Exactly. So when you go through a weekend like this on back-to-back games against Pittsburgh and Toronto, 2 of the best teams in the conference, if not 2 of the best teams in the league. And that happens. But where am I going with all this, Mike? I got to remove this and finally find the slide that I'm looking for. Well, we could do one more, right? We'll do Moritz Seider. Moritz Seider's 96% WAR right now, Mike.
That's pretty good. There's
It's
quite
fantastic.
a few defensemen. Yeah.
But then you look at the rest of these defensemen.
Oh, no! What happened?
Where I was going.
I didn't know
Marc
you were going to
Staal.
share that one. That's really rough.
No, think about too.
Can I say before you go into it, Matt, that
Marc
I'm
Staal.
really glad that you gave full pages to everybody else, and that you minimized these based on their WAR percentage. But I will say that they could be even smaller. So I would say next week you could minimize these even more.
Just pull up the numbers.
It'll kind of soften the blow of the ineptitude. Yes.
Now, quick little Easter egg. Does anybody remember when I pointed out last episode that Gustav Lindstrom's picture apparently isn't in JFresh's database? Because there you go. And whoever wants to throw in the chat, I'm not good with faces. I don't know people I work with and their faces. But if you know that face right there, let me know. Because that is not Gustav Lindstrom in any way, shape, or form. But for everybody listening to the podcast, we've been running through these numbers. Nick Leddy coming in with the best WAR percentage, but of course a lot of that coming from last year. So he took quite a dip this year, but he's still at 69%. Very nice WAR, Mike, if I may. Gustav Lindstrom, of course, I mean, we've already talked about it. He's at 83%. So now we're going to go through the rest of this list.
What was the comment early on when our show started, just mentioning Hronek and his regression?
Right. So yeah, we were coming to that point. He's at 36% WAR right now. This is actually pretty consistent, but I think the regression is in him making himself a top pair defenseman because of what was available to us. And now clearly he's shown like it is something where we thought like if we take all this responsibility away, things will start to improve for Hronek. And he's not awful, but when you talk about these statistics, the WAR, you're talking about can somebody come in and replace these guys and do a better job? And for Hronek, for Dekeyser, for Staal and Oesterle, you're talking about more than 60% of the league. There's guys that can do better. So Hronek's the best of all of the turd sandwiches. When you're talking about Dekeyser's at 30%, Marc Staal is at 10%, Oesterle is at 27%. So it's just, if you want to highlight where the holes start, and we always look at the Red Wings, and we have to kind of pull back, Mike, when we talk about the forwards, because we always said it was the bottom nine, and now that second line is something you can't really mess with anymore. You got to take that seriously. So now we legit have a top six. No improvements, though, on the defensive side. And that's where Tristan's comment, I keep forgetting that they have Edvinsson in the pipeline, comes into play. Because we've got an Albert Johansson and we've got an Edvinsson, both left side defensemen, because that's where your bigger holes here are kind of showing, especially with the Staal and Dekeyser, who can't even make it in the lineup this year. Those are where you're getting some replacements, right? I mean, you've got those two names that will want to fight for a role. And I think, how difficult is it going to be to replace this? Not too hard. So it's going to be, I would say what we're thinking of here with the conversation kind of moving in this direction is that this weekend wasn't as bad as everybody's painting it. And us being further away from them isn't too far down. It's not too far in the future. We're very close because these names are easy to look at and say, boom, gone, replace them.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the nice thing too is like you touched on a couple guys in the pipeline coming up, Edvinsson, Johansson, and then a lot of these fellows here. It's going to be a pretty wide open cap sheet next year because you're going to be. I don't know what the plan is with Leddy, if they can find some way to get a second or third round pick for him at the deadline. But his contract is not looking great for that. Maybe a fifth rounder, a sixth rounder. But I mean, Leddy gone. Dekeyser going to be gone. Marc Staal going to be gone. So in addition to being nice for Yzerman's financial books, that's 10, 12, 12.5 million wide open. These guys who are just kind of, cratering the team defensively. It's hopefully going to lead to, better product on the ice, and, you're going to have room to kind of do what you want with all that money. So it shouldn't be too hard to find somebody in the 11 percentile to be a little bit better than Marc Staal next season.
Right. And making those incremental changes are going to help, but you got to think too, we've brought them up before, but some of the huge changes, going for like a Hampus Lindholm coming up, because that's kind of where this conversation moves next. And I just this is something we promised Tristan a while back, that we'd come up with some names, and this is kind of how we're going to wrap up the show. Matt's got some sick kiddos, so we aren't going to go like the full hour and a half as we've been doing the last couple of weeks. But we have a couple of names we wanted to bring up here as options. And I was finally going through some of the restricted free agent contracts that aren't going to be at that level of like Elias Pettersson, but maybe some options next year outside of just going, okay, throw the checkbook at Hampus Lindholm. Let's see if that works.
The kids will actually call it throw a bag.
Oh,
that's the phrase you're looking for. It's throwing a bag. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, Mike, this is something where we don't necessarily have the exact. Let's see. I guess the J Fresh breakdown. This is evolving hockey. First guy we're pulling up, another Islander, and I say another because that's where we, of course, got Leddy from. Noah Dobson here. Now the key here for everybody listening to the podcast is while we pull up evolving hockey's visual representation of how a player is doing, we're looking at a guy who's not too great in any one area except for on the power play and getting attempts on the net. But Mike, he's not too bad in any one area. So
yeah, I don't want to date myself again as a 34-year-old, but I can use Seinfeld references. This is definitely an even Steven guy. Perfect for a 500 flip a coin team. Let me tell you. Not too good, but not too shabby.
Exactly. And really, like, this is where that conversation where I said, you make like incremental movements, you kind of come up a little bit. And another thing too, this isn't gonna destroy the books, but it is something too where if you're looking at a Noah, this puts you in that realm of having a young cat where there's a lot of room for improvement. There's still a lot of room for growth. I got to pull him up here. 22, 6'4", Mike. But I would say maybe the only thing going against him right now is right-handed shot, even though he has played some of the left side. So that's where these guys are coming into play, because we're primarily looking to replace on the left side. Next on the list, Mike, I can't read it. There we go, Montreal. Alex Romanov. So another opportunity here to get a guy that's maybe evening out with some better numbers for, I believe that's expected goals against for the tiny little numbers I'm looking at. Somebody that's doing better with limiting chances, even though there's a lot of them. And what you have to remember too, this is a guy coming from Montreal. Now you're stealing a guy from Montreal because they're going to have some problems with their own books. Right now they're over the salary cap, and that's with Carey Price being on long-term injured reserve. So that's $10 million you're going to have to squeeze in there and sign another young defenseman. And Mike, I had this playing so great to not be ready for any of these guys. But let me.
No, I just of the two, I would definitely say that Dobson is a higher likelihood just because of the way Yzerman constructed Tampa Bay and the way he's been drafting and constructing this Red Wing team in terms of size. With Dobson being the 6'4", Romanov, being 5'11", which a lot of teams do still, will prioritize a guy like that size. But so far, what we've seen from Yzerman, it's big boys. So Dobson, I think, is a little bit more likely.
That's actually a great point. Now this is another one where you really got to stretch. If you're looking at JFresh's numbers, which I don't have, Mario tests out as like a. Oh, I'm sorry. For anybody not watching on YouTube, Mario Ferraro of San Jose is our next candidate, another restricted free agent. Now, two things working against him. Again, Mike, it does look like the opportunities of putting pucks in the net while Mario's on the ice definitely take a dip. It's rough to score when Mario's on the ice, but you can't forget that San Jose is not exactly a perfect team. So you've got a lot of wiggle room here. But another issue here, Mario's actually been quoted as saying, San Jose is the team that drafted me. I will never sign anywhere else. So, is that just, speaking to the media and trying to make sure you're getting fans? There's a possibility there. But Mike, to your point, he's only 5'11". But again, we're trying to find, some diamonds in the rough here, if I may. And some guys that for a team that's going to need to make room.
Some guys,
spending on their defense. That
so maybe
there might be an opportunity.
So maybe flawed guys who could be had for I don't know, Zadina.
I don't know why I'm hesitant, but part of me feels like we could get a better. Like, this is where I just want to grab them from the restricted free agent market. Like, we're not even going to have to give up a ton of picks because we're not going to be paying them a ton. But, San Jose might run into the problem that they can't keep giving these guys, keep spending more and more money on the defensive side. So you are probably going to end up overpaying to at least land the contract, but then you're hoping that things are going to start to pan out. Like, hope that Ferraro would pair better or have a better just that defensive pair of Ferraro and I hate, just throw it out there, and a Seider would work better than any of the other dog shit options that Seider's got right now. I don't know how far you want to pay into it, but again, just trying to look for some names here that might be options, people to keep an eye on as we move forward here. And also teams that are spending too much in maybe one area. Like, we know San Jose's got a ton of money invested on the defensive side. Do they want to keep throwing money on defense? So this one is fun to look at. Mike, we got a lot of blue rectangles finally. Nick Hague from Vegas. This is another one where they might have to move this guy or make some movements. He might need to be moved only because you want to throw him into a trade, but Vegas is going to have a ton of cap problems coming up. They're going high end, spend a ton on your top six, spend a ton on your top defensive pairing, and kind of make everything work out. Now, you don't get rid of a Nick Hague because you're making room. You lose Nick Hague because you're trying to get rid of another contract, and this is what you can bundle to make sure that moves. So he might, this might be a moot point after the trade deadline. But if it's not, this is another guy that once the cap crunch comes for the Knights, maybe you sneak in, pick him up. Another solid option here. I don't know how much we want to grab from it, but this is a guy, Hague, while we're going through all these different names, I've made mention already, just going back, I can go back one slide here with Mario. We make excuses for some of the analytics going in the negative direction for Ferraro, and he still looks solid, and he's being rated as, one of the top guys in his age bracket right now. Nick Hague, the excuse you could make for these amazing blue bars is how great Vegas does offensively and putting pucks in the back of the net and getting chances and shots on net. So we see a lot of blue compared to red for some of these other guys, but Nick clearly, I guess the asterisk you'd have to throw on there is that, well, he plays on the Vegas Golden Knights, so of course these numbers are going to look fantastic. But again, we're looking for these young guys that you could steal away, and that's another name to keep an eye on. And I'm just going to roll through these now because there isn't too much to grab anymore. But I think it's just there is a lot of hope out there. And the last two guys I'm pulling, we played last night, Rasmus Sandin and Timothy Liljegren from Toronto. Couple of options where Toronto is going to be under a cap crunch as well. And if you're looking for those opportunities to steal them out from right under their nose for any of these NHL teams that you're going up against in the offseason this year, there's another couple of options, something to keep an eye on. So those are at least some guys that paint this picture that what's going on right now with our defensive core is not a problem that we need to be worried about this year, because this team wasn't going to the playoffs. We weren't winning the cup. But we already brought up Albert. We already brought up Simon. A lot of options on the restricted market. And if you want to go back to how, we've seen the success in Tampa Bay when Steve was building out the defensive core, trades, always an option. So you don't necessarily have to look at this and say we're going to go through that restricted free agent signing fiasco that Carolina and Montreal have been going through. But you could at least throw some trades down, and that would be a nice option for Steve. But again, not the point. The point wasn't necessarily to point out that any of these guys are available. It's to point out how many of them are available, and a lot of good options for the Wingdings to make some maybe smaller incremental moves. I think if you look at those two Toronto guys, you're probably making a larger leap. But some smaller incremental moves that are going to move this defense closer into the direction of a winning franchise, and not just those huge defensive voids, holes that need to be filled.
Yeah, I think just the last thing to touch upon too is the guys you're looking at. Because we've talked about what kind of compensation you're looking at in restricted free agents. So I would say, ceiling wise, I gotta think that even if you're looking at Hague, who's starting to produce, and he's kind of getting the benefit of the players around him, and he's the prototypical Red Wing, or at least Yzerman Red Wing defenseman at 6'6". He's not, necessarily, even though he does have positive numbers, he's not really like peppering the net with goals. So if you're saying that you think he can be had responsibly for a salary of like an AAV of $3 million a year, just to kind of ballpark it, that would be looking at draft compensation going back in the form of a Red Wings second-round pick. So we know that Yzerman's been doing a few win now moves, particularly this past offseason. So this is a spot where, you'd be kind of weighing the numbers of, 6'6", hey, kind of shaped like what we're trying to set up here. Can we stomach giving away a second-round pick this year, Matt?
I mean, if that's me actually answering that question, I mean, that's exactly what you want to find, I think, in your second round pick. And then you're moving, you're that much closer, right? You've got a guy that's already ready to go. And with the prospects coming over, we talked about, and Edvinsson, who's going to be, you're hoping we're going to lock into another Seider looking youngster coming in and looking like, a 10-year vet. Or you got Albert that we talked about earlier as well, who's been playing a lot of hockey in the SHL, so there isn't too much growth there. So now you're locking in 3 legit options, and that's without talking about, are you going to spend a ton in the unrestricted market as well? So as you're trying to pile up these options and fill out this defensive core, there is a huge opportunity, I think, in the unrestricted market and in the restricted market, if you want to go in that direction. But there's a lot of opportunity to make this defensive core more than formidable in one off season here. A lot of turnover, a lot of chemistry issues when you make that kind of change. So maybe 3 or 4 new guys isn't exactly the best way to go, because I think we'll see too, if this team makes those incremental improvements, that actually there's always a domino effect with especially teams like the Red Wings that already have a ton of young guys that could just be taking steps forward. They have the skill, they just need the experience and the smarts, and maybe a little less pressure. So as those variables all start to come together and we put a formula together to figure out, some level of success, there's things that you would want to do, things you don't want to do, depending on where you're sitting. From a fan's point of view, how many of these moves do you think are actually going to hurt us in the long run because we're doing so much player turnover? But I think the way to end that conversation, or at least to end this on a positive, is just One of the things that has been highlighted in the Yzer plan, and so far since Steve's been leading us to victory, the word flexibility gets thrown about. So if you want to make some huge moves, there's going to be some names out there. There's going to be some opportunity for the Red Wings to make a huge unrestricted free agent move. That, again, as we've talked about, the unrestricted free agent market will hurt you in the end. It does. It will. There's no doubt about it. You will get hurt. But, so you can go that route. And I don't even say that would be a bad move. I think there are some options that are legit. And I would not be mad if Steve put us in a contract that had people nationally going, woof, that's going to hurt you in 3 years. But for right now, it's pretty good. But again, if you don't want to go that route, there's a ton of options in the trade market and the restricted free agent market with teams that will be struggling with the salary cap. And there are even some teams that we still haven't taken a look at yet that are going to have some problems. And some teams that have decided in the last week or so, they have a new GM in place and they're going to be making some moves too. So there's a lot of options. I think at least with the problems that we look at with this defense, and we're also looking right now at a 500 team, and we could look at, again, 4 out of 7 of the defensemen that we could talk about are it's funny to say 7 defensemen. I'm going to say everyday defensemen, but it's just the Dekeyser Oesterle conversation. But if you're looking at 4 of those guys are just bottom of the basement, like statistically don't bring a lot. And that's, again, taking a look at their we took a look at their last season. We've taken a look at their last 3 seasons. Those numbers are consistently negative. That just means to me that it's going to be that much easier to find a replacement, right? Like it's just going to be about contracts ending and putting in a new guy to say that, are we going to be able to find a better player? I think it'll be pretty easy. Mike, I said a half hour. We're at 52 minutes. I've been rambling a lot here.
No, it's not. I mean, like all this stuff. I love talking about restricted free agency, and it always feels like a moot investigation because nobody likes signing restricted free agents except me. And again, I think it is important to point out. And I know Tristan's mentioned it a few times, we echo it too, is, this is a team, like you said, with a lot of cap space, and it's probably going to go towards unrestricted free agents. It's probably going to go towards trades of teams looking to get under the threshold, so they got to empty out their books a little bit. So the likelihood of the Red Wings offering out money and draft compensation for players is not particularly high. But I mean, should things fall right with the unrestricted free agents, and you're like, my God, we're just like a couple guys away, and I feel really good about this team. If we're just giving up a 2nd round pick to have a guy who could be a top 4 defenseman for us, it's only a 2nd round pick, and we're pretty good at collecting those. So, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, some of the conversation, too, that we didn't really get too deep into is how much you're paying. It is possible that we're going to be paying a lot more than that to steal them away because you got to make it, with the restricted free agent market, one of the things you have to talk about is to steal these guys, you got to overpay them because you got to take them from a team that's struggling financially and you got to put them in a position where they can't. They either don't want to start trading guys away to be able to afford a guy that might still be a coin flip for are they good or not. But I guess, yeah, there's a few more variables we didn't discuss. So we can get into that later. And there's a lot, there's some smarter people that'll put together in a couple of months tables that we can look at and decide if we want to spend the amount of money that analytics would say you'd have to spend to pick up some of these guys. So that's definitely a conversation we can have at a later date. But I'd say a lot of these names, you're going to be making somewhat of a gamble. Even if it's like $3 million and they don't end up, they end up tracking to be a guy that should be paid less than $1 million. That's still a risk to some extent because it's going to take a couple of million away from somebody else. But I still like the risk right now that you're taking because we're again talking about replacing guys that are graded as your bottom 30%, 10% in the league. So if you're flipping a coin to say, is this guy going to be anywhere better than that? I don't mind that coin flip at all, especially if you're in this mode of still trying to figure some stuff out and find yourself in the playoff conversation. If you're not ready for that, and we're talking again, this is Steve Yzerman's brain. If Steve's not ready for that, none of this stuff's going to happen. We're just going to keep drafting, collecting guys to give us more draft capital, and that means we got to keep regular capital open. That means we got to keep those funds open. So no free agents come in. We don't make any deals that could possibly hurt us in the future. So we'll know after this offseason if we're ready to get away from these conversations of blowing it in the third period. Because if we don't make 3 significant signings, 3 significant moves, transactions to bring new guys to this team, and I will tell you right now, Albert and Simon, we've talked about multiple times, do not count in that conversation. I'm talking about new guys that legit we look at and we're like, all right, that guy's got a spot on the team. If we don't do 3 moves, I'm telling you right now, we still can't get mad if the same game happens next year. Boom, I said it.
Really going out there, huh?
Yeah, big hot take. All right. Let's wrap up here. Eric thrown out there. Let's not forget the names. We have a lengthy prospect lineup.
Yeah.
I would still say
Vero.
Yeah. Buyum, Vero, Sabrango, McIsaac. I don't expect those guys to make any headway next year. I think that's where most of the conversation can focus on Johansson and Edmondson. But I mean, it's something too where, to Eric's point, you don't want to bundle up too much money in any of these other guys when you want to keep space open for the likes of Wallander. It's really just this conversation wraps around into how competitive are we going to be next year? And how competitive should we, this whole episode started, how competitive should we expect us to be this year? We'll wrap it up here, right? Hopefully we pulled some of you guys off the ledge here. Hopefully you're a little less angry because of the things we pointed out today, because this team is just flat out not ready. And I think this was actually a pretty good couple of nights of hockey if you're a Red Wings fan. Just the result sucked. Mike, if it was, let's take away the 2 empty net goals. If it was 5-0 and we came back and made it 5-4, I mean, we'd all be feeling pretty good right now. So,
no, man, I'm going to stand by my statement. We only lost 4.5-4.
So if we were down 4.5-0 in the third period and we came back and made it 4.5-4,
this is a team that fights. They just keep coming back in that third period.
It is funny, actually. Just this will be my last point. We'll wrap up, I promise. That
what? It's not how you finish. It's how you start.
It's how it. We did start like we went through half of this, a quarter of the season, I'll say that. And it was, wow, we're so scrappy, we never give up. And now everybody's ready to give up on this team and throw them in the garbage and get rid of the entire personnel lineup. Because now all of a sudden after one game, man, they always just give up, There's no fight in this team. What the hell's going on? I don't know. All right. Thanks, guys. Sorry, I did kind of yell at you for anybody who was too angry. Let's sail off in the sunset. That's better than me starting another point. All right. See everybody later.
All right. See you.